What's up, family? Welcome back to the Stop Sinking Show, where we go from struggle to flow. Like most things in our nature, we have developed qualities in programming that makes it easier for us to survive, but less likely, especially if misplaced, to thrive. The one I want to talk about today is consistency bias or commitment bias. This is where a person tends to stick with the opinion that they have formed, regardless of being presented with new information or not. They stick with the information that they have formed once and are less flexible to see other ways of being. Now, again, there's a biological and social reason for why we developed this in the first place. Socially, it helps to form bonds with people if we can rely on our formed opinions of them without having to be mistrusting or cynical the whole time. Working within large groups or tribes was key to our survival. Biologically, we have to reduce our cognitive load. So socially, it helps working with each other. And biologically, it helps us with not having to do all the thinking all the time. So having formed an opinion once or having identified a pattern through evaluation allows us to form a belief or behavior, and it is very taxing on our brain if we have to reevaluate and rethink through the same processes all the time. And as someone who is a systematic thinker, especially when it comes to repetitive tasks, I try to minimize having to do the same thinking twice. And I document and set up a system or a standard operating procedure to handle the same scenario again without having to do the thinking again. Much of this is productive and required. But what if your original formed opinion was wrong in the first place or wrong now with the time? Now the whole system is solving for something else, and you're remaining consistent to a broken process or an outdated process. This is where we have to be, first and foremost, most loyal to the truth over anything else. No matter what our original opinions have been formed as, if a person displays characteristics that is outside the realm of what we have assessed them to be, it's crucial in these moments to update our assessment and opinion and take in the new data into consideration. Socially, we can get into a lot of trouble operating from the ideal of what we have pegged someone to be, which sometimes puts blinders on our ability to see them for what they really are or what else they can be if we kept our eyes open and took in the information without any bias. This is usually the underlying story of failed relationships and partnerships, people that ended up being not what we originally thought them to be. The same level of flexibility in opinion is required when dealing or assessing any situation or problem, not just socially. Just because you think you have sized up something doesn't necessarily mean there isn't something else to see. My favorite line in chess is, when you see a good move, think and find a better one. There's always something you can do that lies outside the current possibility of what you are considering. And actually, the current possibility might be keeping you from seeing that thing. I'll tell you the lighthearted, funny thing that happened this week that made me think of this, and then I'll labor the point some more maybe. I'm not a very visual person. I often joke that I couldn't tell you the color of my girlfriend's eyes, and we've been together since we were kids. Okay, let's be honest, it's probably brown, statistically speaking. If it was anything other than brown, or if it was green or hazel, or I'd probably notice, it would probably stick in my head. But either way, her eyes are beautiful. But either way, the point is, I don't notice a lot of physical descriptions of people. In conversation, if you have ever asked me, what was that person wearing, or that person with the glasses, or that kind of hair, I won't know. I would probably be a horrible eyewitness for a crime. I don't notice these things. But here's what I do notice. And I don't know exactly if it's my conscious brain doing the noticing. What I notice is haircuts. I always have. So it's not just because I have long hair now and some obsession with hair. No, I've always noticed when someone gets a haircut. And if someone comes in with a fresh haircut, or something is obviously different with their hair, or even something out of the ordinary for them, like they're wearing jeans and I've never seen them wear jeans, or they always wear a hat and this time they're not wearing a hat, my conscious brain won't notice this and doesn't know this, nor could I tell you consciously anything about this person or what I noticed. But as soon as you walk in front of me with this new look, within a split second, and this is how I know it's not my conscious brain, within a hairline of a second, like noticing micro expressions, my gut knows that something is different with you. And I usually call out the fresh haircut, like, hey, nice fresh haircut, or whatever new I see. Or if I can't identify it, I'll just ask, what's different about you? You look different. So knowing this background about me, the same type of scenario happened the other day. Except this time, it was a friend from a gym who had long hair for as long as I've known him. And on this day, I see him with a fresh cut, fresh taper. And of course, I was like, you look so different. But it looked good and it fit his face. Almost so much so, which brings me to my point. His new haircut fits his face so well that I went to him later and had to ask him to show me a picture of how he looked with the long hair. Mind you, I've been seeing him with the long hair for months. And it was probably just the day before that he had cut it before coming to the gym. But I could not remember, even though I've seen him for months and he had just cut it the day before, I could not remember what he looked like with the long hair. Now, as someone who has long hair myself and have not cut it in almost 9 years, and sometimes I feel married to it, I was reminded of this lesson. We're so busy being consistent and committed to the way that we think we are supposed to show up in the world. Because of that, many of us don't take the plunge in putting ourselves out there because we still think about phantom figures from middle school and high school and worry about what they would think. We're so afraid to step outside of what we know of ourselves or what others have gotten to know of us that the first wall that we hit in resistance to change, the first thing that keeps us from changing is this anchoring feeling that what would they think if I showed up as someone completely different tomorrow with a completely different style? What would they think of me if I started making videos, or if I called them and offered them my business services for this new business I started, or if I was seen making a fool of myself and possibly ruining this so-called reputation I have built up? We're so married to the self-image of ourselves that we have of ourselves. That's a picture that we just have, that we formed, that we don't realize this exact fact. And it's this: the day after you cut your hair, the day after you start wearing glasses or take them off, the day after you start your business, the day after you make your first video, the day after you've been recording podcasts, literally no one will remember what you used to be like. Like, I literally could not imagine in my mind's eye what my friend looked like with long hair just the day before. And I had seen him like that for months. And you would think that image of him had some sort of permanence to it, like it would have been etched into my brain. But nope. Literally, the day after, I could not remember at all what he looked like before. And this new haircut looks so fitting that you would have had to convince me that it wasn't his regular style. What I hope to illustrate with this silly example is this not so silly point. The thing that's keeping you exactly where you are is just you. Your own idea of you. That rigidness in your mind that you attribute and project onto all these phantom, blank, rotating faces of judgment. That's all your judgment. And the minute you free yourself, the minute you let yourself show up different, the minute you allow yourself to change, the minute you let your current self go, your current opinion, your current belief and patterns, no one else will pose any resistance. They won't remember. They won't even remember. They're too busy thinking about themselves and imprisoning themselves with your face as the cause for that imprisonment. How ironic. If you want to change your life, you have to change your mind. And those that cannot change their mind cannot change anything. Said differently, those that can change their mind can change anything. And sure, your firm opinions are welcomed and required in some places in your life, like your values, your ethics, what you're willing to die for. But if you cannot change your mind on the things your mind is actually designed for to change and upgrade, why do you even have a mind? Over time, this consistency, commitment bias leaves an imprint on our emotions and our subconscious processing. They make us think that that's all we are. We start identifying with these things. And then it becomes the place we operate from, these emotions, almost without the mind at all, without thought, just on autopilot, because it's who you think you are. Whether that's leading to calm or chaos, we are no longer in control. I'll end with this. If your life isn't headed where you'd like, the first place to look is at your beliefs and what actions they are leading you towards. Maybe if you believe different, you'll do different, and then be different. It's hard to get to new places when your moves are consistent with the old. It's hard to find new inroads to peace when your behavior is committed to old chaos. I love you, family. Stay true always. I see you on the next show.